It's one of the biggest selling books in the last few years, and it gives an unflinching look at things that happened in the concentration camps during World War II. Let's talk about Peacock's The Tattooist of Auschwitz. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my TV review for the Peacock miniseries, The Tattooist of Auschwitz. This has 6 episodes, and it is streaming right now, and it is based on a very popular book. It was one of the #1 books of the year on the New York Times bestseller list in 2018, and since then it has sold 3 million copies around the world. So very, very popular, and it's written by Heather Morris, who is a character in this show, and we'll get to all that here and what that means and my thoughts on this program in just a moment. First, though, let me welcome you back to Dan Reviews It. If you are a subscriber of the channel, thank you so much for that. Love it when you guys return to check out my videos, but if you're not, please consider subscribing and click that notification bell too, so you get the alerts for all my new drops. I do try to post just about every day. It doesn't always happen, but I certainly try. And with that in mind, please like and comment on this video too. That helps the channel out tremendously. All right, so we've got Heather Morris. Like I said, the author of the book is a character in this show, and here's the reason why. So essentially, the book is kind of a memoir of the main character here, Lali Sokolov, who is played in the present day by Harvey Keitel and in the 40s by Jonah Hauer-King, who is maybe best known for being Prince Eric in the recent Little Mermaid movie. He's done a lot of other things, but that may be his most high profile. But essentially, the show is not only a retelling of the book, but it is a retelling of how the book came together, because you have these present day moments with Harvey Keitel as the old Lali, and Melanie Lynskey from Yellow Jackets and many other things plays Heather Morris, who is the author of the book. And so we have these flashes in the present day of him telling her the story, and she is a nurse. I forget. They say it in the first episode, I'm sure, but there's so many intense things that happen in the show that I sort of forget how they came about to me. But anyway, so we get that in the present day, and then we go back for the majority of the show to tell those stories that are present in the book. And so in the flashback, parts, we have Anna Proshenak as his girlfriend Gita. You have Jonas Ney, Tallulah Hayden, Millie Eshet. A lot of people I'm unfamiliar with, to be honest, but that's fine. In a story like this, I think a lot of times you need people that you don't really associate with anything. And I kind of forgot, I think the Jonah dude was Prince Eric anyway. So for me, he was kind of a new face. But I think you need this in a story that is this intense. In fact, one of the things that really kept taking me out of the show was Melanie Lynskey herself. Harvey Keitel was great, and they made him up so he was hardly recognizable. But Melanie Lynskey, putting on this very thick accent that didn't quite work all the time for me. And after a while, I got used to it, and okay. But, it's not convincing enough to think that, oh, maybe Melanie Lynskey's been putting on an American accent this whole time. Maybe this is her real voice. No, there was none of that, because the accent wavered back and forth for those first few episodes. And knowing her as an actress really kept taking me out of those present day moments. Now, as we go on, I would say the last couple of episodes, we actually spend more time in the present day than we did in the previous episodes, because Lali himself is going through, a PTSD of sorts, as he's sort of reliving these moments as he's telling the story, and it ends up kind of consuming him, and he has some survivor's guilt, and I'm sure all of that happened to Heather Morris and Lali as they were doing the book in the real world, because that makes total sense, and so we spend a little more time with them in the last couple of episodes, and it actually enriches the characters a little bit, because in the first few episodes, really, I was unsure why they were giving us those moments. I understand maybe you could set it up like the beginning of the first episode. Okay, here's my story, and then we go to the story. But other than that, it was like, Melanie Linsky's job was just to kind of be shocked by everything, and just cut to her face, and oh, she's tearing, and I get it. She's supposed to represent us as the audience, but we can have our own emotions with it for sure. We don't necessarily need the Heather Morris character to give us those emotions, but they brought it back around in those last couple episodes when it really is a lot about the intensity of the subject matter and Lolly and Heather's relationship with the book and with the stories kind of being fleshed out a little more. That I really liked. But it took us a while to get there, which is really the only issue I have with the pacing. A lot of times I say, oh, these miniseries go on too long. No, I think these episodes actually flew by pretty quickly. They're all about 45 minutes. But because we're spending the majority of the time with these very, very intense sequences of, things that happened at the time, I think, let's get in and out quicker. Anyway, this does not need to be 10 episodes. We definitely get the point and the horror, with those first few episodes, certainly. And the love story is okay between Lolly and Gita. I appreciate it. But it's pretty ordinary, I guess, within the grand scope of everything else that is so horrific. Yeah, but basically, Lolly's job at the concentration camp was tattooing identification numbers on fellow prisoners' arms. So that's where we get the name, and that's obviously where we get a lot of the horror, because not only was he subjected to all of the things that the other prisoners were, but he was also in a sense, working for the concentration camp, which, I can't even wrap my head around. It's so terrible. So that's where, all this tension comes from. Now, the book has been criticized for maybe saying things are inaccurate, and it's been said that, it would not be a text to read if you want to learn about the history of Auschwitz. But look, I'm okay with that, because this is from Lolly's perspective. It is from his memories, and it's from his perspective, the real person. And then, of course, the Harvey Keitel version in the show. Sure, not everything is going to be accurate. Is your memory, accurate even 10 years after something happened, let alone, 60? Probably not. So I'm okay with the fact that this is not necessarily, piece by piece what definitely happened day by day. But I think there's enough here that certainly, did happen, because, corroborates a lot of other accounts of the time, that it's still very, very, very effective, for sure. So yeah, I think this is definitely a very good show. I don't know if it's great, because of some of those issues I mentioned, but I flew through these 6 episodes. I watched them all over 2 days, and it was harrowing, for sure. This is one of the more intense portrayals I've seen of Auschwitz and of concentration camps in a long time. There's certainly these pieces of media over the years. Schindler's List was one of them, absolutely, that really, really goes in depth with some of those horrors and really kind of puts you in those situations. And by having Lolly recount them, in the present day, it also put us in, back kind of in those situations. So, obviously not, to the effect, but to understand, a little bit more. So I liked the show a lot. I give the Tattooist of Auschwitz a B+. It's kind of weird to say I liked it, because it is horrific, and it's definitely, not for the faint of heart, but I think it is worth a watch for sure. And you can check it out on Peacock now with all 6 episodes. All right, that will do it. And I will see you next time on Dan Reviews It. Thanks for watching. Bye.